Connecticut Valley Views recently had the great pleasure to visit the University of Connecticut campus in Storrs to speak with the Interim Athletic Director, Paul Pendergast. This is an opportunity for our viewers to have a closer look at this venerable institution and take pride that UConn is the #1 public university in New England and among the top 27 in the nation. Well, Paul, I want to thank you very much for giving us some time today, interview you, and to talk to you about your interim position here with the college. We do appreciate that.
Thank you, Susan.
Does it feel like old home week to be back here on UConn?
Oh boy, does it ever. I was privileged to be here for 5 years, from 1998 to 2003, and with an opportunity to leave 2006, I should say, not 5 years, I was here 8 years. But 5 years in this particular position of fundraising is what I was referring to during that time. So I was here for 8 years in total, 5 years in fundraising, and left to go do a similar type of job in Hartford at St. Francis Hospital. And now I'm back.
Yeah.
And now I'm back. But it really does feel great to be back, and so many old friends, and the campus.
Has it changed?
Changes so much, the physical structure of the campus.
A lot of buildings been added since.
Several, and still underway. I mean, there's a lot of tarps out there where there's building going on, and skyscraper builders in the sky and so forth. Yeah.
But that's exciting to know that the school is alive and well. You know, adding buildings means now. Has it added students? I mean, is that reflective of adding students, adding courses, adding new departments? What are the new buildings?
I know there are more courses at night now that I do know for sure.
Okay.
But as far as, I think it's made for a more comfortable type of arrangement for the students here. There are better classrooms, better lit, better equipped, and so forth. More comfortable. They are certainly better equipped, and as well as the dormitories here, which needed a lot of work. And so we've come up to the standard of what today should be about for a college student.
How many students actually on campus now?
Well, there's 15,000 students here on this campus, and we do have a number of other campuses. So there's about 25,000 in the entire system, Susan.
All right. Now, President Hurst's invitation for you to return as the interim athletic post is complimentary and certainly a reflection of your prior career success in fundraising. Was it a no-brainer to accept? Because I know you had a wonderful job at St. Francis. You were very, very well liked with them. All of the people were very devoted, I think, to you and your department. But was it a no-brainer to come back?
Well, let's put it this way. I wasn't looking for this job when it came along.
Right.
But when it did come along, it felt very special, having been here before. But you're right. I love St. Francis Hospital still. I have many great friends there. And
it's a great family feeling, St. Francis.
It really is. It's a tremendous place, and a great family feeling, and a great feeling of service to those that were in need at the time, and healthcare and so forth. That it was tough to leave, knowing that my heart and soul was there.
Sure.
But certainly torn. And having been here, and I think if I hadn't been here before, I would have been.
That might have been a different story.
Would have been less prone to be coming back.
Different story.
But it's a great place to be.
Sure. Well, there's been a lot of hype in the media, and I think we want to get this story right, about the APR, which is the Academic Progress Rate. NCAA guidelines update. What's UConn's current eligibility status with regard to that, for the 2012 NCAA tournament? I believe the baseline is 900. I
think you're talking specifically about men's basketball.
Yes,
here.
Men's basketball.
Women's basketball is in great shape. For this coming year, the year that we're in right now, competing, we're fine. We have a score that would allow us to compete. We did lose 2 scholarships. Now we're working under an old model here where, because of this 4-year rule, it gets very complex here.
Yes.
So I don't want to get too complex with how it all works.
Yeah, sure.
But just know that we're just fine for this year. The year that's in question right now seems to be next year in competition.
Okay.
So there's still a difference of opinion. The opinion right now is that we will not compete next year. We have a difference of opinion about how that should be measured, because it's when, and here's the operative words, our most recent data. Our most recent data would allow us to compete.
All right.
The NCAA may view that just a little differently, because there are people that are on different reporting times. Schools on the West Coast don't start or end the same time we do. So we have to get that worked out.
Do you see them perhaps giving you time to catch up? Perhaps would that be the bargaining chip? Give us time to get it, and we'll get the average up, or how do you see being able
to
perhaps
move that? Well, I think in this 4-year rolling average, you can have one bad year and it really kills you.
Of course.
And we've had 3 terrific years and one stinker.
Right, right, right.
And it really does cost you. So
Sure.
If you look back over time, we've had some great runs in men's basketball in terms of the academic progression rate. And this past year,
Actual stars that were both stars in academics and athletics. I mean, actually, where you had some great stars that were proficient in both.
Emeka Okafor is
Sure,
just one
absolutely.
example of somebody who could have graduated in 2.5 years and has gone on to play in the NBA. But I say he's somebody he's got the stock to be a United States Senator someday, as does Maya Moore.
Sure.
Terrific students, terrific people. And in the large part, that's what we do recruit.
Yeah.
We recruit some great young men and women here, many of whom who excel in the classroom, some of whom still struggle a little bit, but they learn along the way how to best be a student and to understand what it is it takes to be a student.
Yeah, and those other people have really set the mark for being a role model, that you can do both. Some
can-
people need to focus more, but you can do both. It can be done, is the main
It can definitely
thing.
be done, and frankly, with some athletes that come into the system here, come from systems in high school that aren't great teachers either. You have to teach them how to learn when they come here, because
That's
they
quite
haven't had
true.
the fundamentals.
That's quite true.
They're great athletes. They may have done well enough in the classroom wherever they were, but the standard of that high school may not be up to the standard of what the University of Connecticut accepts for those types of students that are coming here. So,
Which is very key, because it really prepares you for life. You can't step out of the university and play a great game of basketball. That's not necessarily, you're not going to necessarily go to the NBA, and you've got have to have something to back that up.
and you're right about that. Many of the young men in particular don't go on to the NBA, but a lot of them continue to play basketball in foreign countries. But at some point, I think your point is the ball has to stop bouncing.
Exactly.
And you have to move on with doing something else. You have to be prepared for that.
True.
And I think the fundamentals that they learn as being a student athlete here allow them much more so than just the student of the University of Connecticut in many ways.
Well, a little further on to the Hartford Current, I don't think they're picking on UConn. I think they're trying to. I think what they're trying to do is, the fact is, it's an issue. It's going to be an ongoing issue. But they made this statement. It was in an editorial. It's good that the NCAA is getting serious about this, meaning referencing ramping up on the APR standards. The country needs scientists, scholars, and engineers more than it needs power forwards. This obviously reflects UConn's new mandate. Now, I think that, quite honestly, UConn was already going in that direction with the new president, Herbst, before this whole thing came up recently. I think she was starting to do that when she was coming on board. She was stating, we will excel in everything. We will win at everything. So I think really UConn was going there before this all started.
Well, I think you're right. When you look back, first of all, there were 28,000 high school seniors that applied for 3,000 openings in Connecticut this year. So we're a school in demand. If you look back at, you mentioned the academic progression rate,
Right.
that we're far beyond those schools that look like us. If you look at other public universities about our size that compete in the sports that we compete and excel in those sports, we've done far better than they have in all of the sports that we compete. So I think those things, I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think what Susan has drawn out with us is to not settle for anything, to be excellent in everything you could possibly be, particularly in the classroom, particularly when it comes to compliance with NCAA rules and all that goes with competing in those sports that we can win championships. We're going to try to compete and win those championships. So she's set a standard that's pretty high, and that's what we've set for ourselves all along. And I think she's actually challenging the rest of the university to come along and seek those same high standards. So we feel pretty good about that.
Exactly. One feeds off the other, actually. Now, you had mentioned to me, I want to talk a little bit more about game day experience. Tell us what that's about.
Glad you asked
Where
me
do you
that,
see that
because,
going?
well, having left for 5 years, Susan, and been on kind of the other side of the line, so to speak, and being more critical because now I'm a fan. Entertain me.
Right.
Entertain me. What goes on between the lines, unquestionably, is terrific. The product of what we produce in terms of basketball and football and soccer and hockey and so on. Well, yes, and when the teams are in motion, you're getting a lot for your dollar. But when it stops, they go to timeouts, they go to the locker room and so forth. I'll use minor league baseball as a comparison. I'll use the NBA when they're playing as a comparison. That the fan really does feel good. It's a fun place to be.
Yes.
And frankly, I've gone to minor league baseball games where they don't even watch the game.
Right.
They just watch what's going on in the stands.
Right.
like a Jimmy Buffett concert.
Yeah, exactly.
But I want to have that sort of experience for our fans when they come here. So it's going to be a little bit of a cultural change for us.
Yeah. Now, how do you see UConn's options playing out for remaining in the Big East versus the ACC? I mean, there seems to be a lot of musical chairs going on. Some people leaving the Big East, going to the ACC, but do you think UConn's going to stay for the Big East?
We're committed to the Big East, and I feel.
I mean,
that
there was a sense you might jump if the opportunity came.
Well, I think you have to be asked to even have somebody give you an option to change your mind. We haven't been asked.
Right.
So that's really more of a presidential question, to be honest with you, than an athletic director question. So it'd be unfair for me to answer whether we would or we wouldn't. But
right
the
now
fact of the matter
see
is we are where we are, and we want to commit to
doing
doing the
that.
best we can for the Big East.
You indicated early on in your new post that you were upping student tickets. You came on board, you said, I see this as something we need to do. You increased them by an additional 200 tickets for the students?
For men's basketball in Gamble, it had been 2,500 for students since we opened Gamble, which was 21 years ago. And so I just thought, based on 8,700 applicants for 2,500 seats for student tickets, it was probably about time we did something for the students.
Sure.
So trying to pick that right number without infringing too much on what the other supporters of UConn might demand in the way of season tickets and so forth was a little tricky, but
sometimes you don't see those box seats always filled, you know, I mean, people have season tickets and so forth. I mean, they have things that they need to do, but it'd be nice to see them pass them along.
Well, you make a good point with that, because at this point, when the lower bowl, as we call it, when there are empty seats down there, what people don't often realize, they're sold. But people may not choose to come talk about those seats because they're whatever the circumstance it may be. But we're preparing ourselves right now, and it's a bit of a change. But rather than they go unused, because when no one shows, everybody loses.
Sure.
That to take those tickets and let us know that they're not going to be used.
Right.
We'll create a system that will resell them, refund their money, and somebody will get to have that experience. So it will be somebody will get to experience UConn basketball,
and once they
somebody
do,
else will
then
get their
they
money
hooked.
back.
Yeah.
So that'll be everybody wins on that one.
Exactly. Well, I want to thank you very much, Paul, for giving me the opportunity to spend a little bit of time with you, catch up with
Susan,
your
thank you.
new post. It was a pleasure to be here. I do appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay.
All right, Paul.
Thank you,
Thanks
Susan,
a lot.
very much.
Okay.
Thank you for coming.
Our thanks to Windsor Federal Savings for making this program possible. Neighbors helping neighbors since 1936.